That's what we do. That's what we're all supposed to do. We are put here on this earth to glorify God every day of our lives. That is what we're supposed to do as Christians.
Right.
And as followers of Jesus, is to glorify God. It's not about us. It's not about anything else but glorifying God. There are 5 significant dates in my life that really were life-changing events for me. The first one was the day that I married Johnny. And the second one was the day that I had our son Jonathan. The third was the day that Johnny went into liver failure. That's the day that I realized that I'm in control of. I'm not in control of anything. And that God is in control of everything. And I watched the fourth significant day was the day that Johnny had a liver transplant. And I watched prayers be answered and a miracle happen, and I see that every day of my life since. And the 5th significant day is November the 22nd of 2013, and that's the date that I went on my first flight with Pilots for Christ. That's the day that I knew. I like what Mark Twain saying that says that there are 2 days in your life, there are 2 important days in your life, the day that you're born and the day that you realize what you were born for, or something like that.
Amen.
That's the day I realized I had been being trained all my life to do what I'm doing right now. And we are all given talents, God-given talents. And those are the things that we need to find in our own lives to be able to serve and to do. Because, none of us that wear these Pilots of Christ shirts we don't deserve to wear them. We are all sinners. We have all fallen short, but because of the grace and mercy of God in our lives, we have the ability and the opportunity to serve.
Amen.
So, let me tell you a little bit about Pilots for Christ. I think a lot of you know a lot about us because we've had so many people in Clark County that we've helped and served. We are the only chapter of Pilots for Christ in the state of Alabama. There are 20 other chapters of Pilots for Christ in the nation. We're the only one in the state of Alabama. We cover Alabama and Georgia, Mississippi, Louisiana, southern Tennessee, and northern Florida. So that's the area, our 350-mile radius from our home base in Monroeville, Alabama. We cover that area, but we fly well outside of those areas. Houston, Texas is a typical flight for us. We average 2 to 3 flights a week to Houston, Texas, to MD Anderson. Those flights, average cost are $2,500 a trip, round trip, to make those flights. We've been to Denver this year, Kansas several times, Wichita, Kansas several times, up to Ohio, to Cleveland, and to Columbus, the Mayo clinics. We've got commercial flights, assisting with commercial flights with children that are having seizures and neurological problems to Boston and New York. And that's one of the things that we do. If they are capable of flying commercially, we do help with we assist in doing the commercial flights as well. But most of the time, especially if it's a New York or Boston trip, because that's a very expensive flight for us to try and make, and if they are able to fly commercially, that's what we do. Most of the time, though, it's on our plane that we affectionately call Papa Charlie. The tail number is N115DC. And you'll hear the air traffic controllers saying, 5 Papa Charlie, and it just kind of clicks. You hear it over and over and over again. And so we affectionately call the plane Papa Charlie. And you'll see on our Facebook post that Papa Charlie is refueled and ready to go for the next flight when we give our PFC updates. But most of the time our flights are in our plane, Papa Charlie, because immune systems are compromised. They're too sick to fly any other way. We are one of the only aircraft in the nation that has a stretcher that can make those type of flights, which is extremely important when someone's so sick and their immune system's compromised And there's just no way to make that drive. 12, 14 hours out there is excruciating when you're in the kind of pain. We've had Bailey Bird before from Andalusia, which I know a lot of y'all follow. Bailey had to drive over because the fog was so heavy one morning that we had to leave, and she had to drive from Andalusia to Monroe. Well, just in that hour's drive for her, we wound up at the emergency room to get a pain shot before we could even leave. So just that 1 hour from Andalusia made a tremendous difference for Bailey. So just imagine 12 hours of it. Plus having to stop, go to the restroom, and I mean, your immune system, it gets you. So that's which I don't think I have to explain the justification for why it's necessary that Pilots for Christ is here, but that's one of the things we need people to understand, that this is not a luxury flight. This isn't just hopping in a private jet and going somewhere. This is a priceless service that is offered to anyone throughout our territory that we can help. When you're dealing with a critical illness, you're dealing with what the disease is doing and ravaging your body. It's ravaging you financially, emotionally, spiritually, everything that happens when you go through a critical illness. And so that's one of the things that Pilots for Christ fills that gap and helps with. We support, we try and make sure that we are supporting people spiritually, making sure that we're witnessing and showing the love of Christ through our actions to them. We have a group of prayer warriors that calls before flights to make sure and talk to them and just be a sounding board or just an ear to listen, shoulder to cry on, those type of things. So we're more than just flying people. We're more than just a high-priced bus driver. But anyway, I think that the thing that has touched me most is seeing the lives that have been touched and the impact that it's had on those lives. Because of the critical nature and the giant that these people are fighting, that there is someone there to show the love of Christ for them. And we fly the believer and the non-believer. We always like it when we get somebody that's on the fence, because we got 2 hours to Houston with them in a plane. They're not going anywhere. So we've got a captive audience. So we like that, so we can witness and talk to them and give them time to talk to us and that type of thing. We are not an air ambulance. That's one of the things that when we first started out, we were thinking, well, gosh, y'all ought to be, Pilots for Christ ought to be reimbursed for the services because of the stretcher or whatever. And that's not true. That's not something that we are not reimbursed. And an air ambulance, we are not an air ambulance. And you have to keep in mind, too, that my husband is Johnny Sales, and he spent 38 years in the car business. His competitor was Tommy Lee, our pilot. And he owned the Lee Motor Company, which was the Chevy dealer in Monroe. And so they grew up around the block from each other, and they were competitors. And who would have thought that you would have put Tommy Lee and Johnny Sales working hand in hand, talking and working together every day of their life? That's funny. That's really kind of funny.
Did not see that coming.
Yeah, we did not see that coming. You talk about a God thing, that's a God thing. We do a whole lot of heckling though there in the office. I think we give all of our compassion away, so by the time we get in the office with one another, there's not a whole lot left. Tommy will walk in and go, you need to wash that car. Funny thing is, I'm driving a Chevrolet now. And he'll walk in and go, you need to wash that car. And it's like, man, that's the only thing on that GMC together is that dirt, So we have a good time together, but we are very blessed. Tommy has got a heart of a lion. He started Pilots for Christ in April of 1994. Several guys had been to an air show and had seen this stuff on Pilots for Christ, and they said, we need to do this. And Tommy said, we need a plane first. And so they got to work, and a group of them invested together and bought the plane. So And he truly is. He is so dedicated. And that's one of the things that it has been amazing watching God work on Pilots for Christ this past year. In 2013, Tommy was getting ready to sell out Lee Motor Company, and it was shocking to us because we didn't think a Lee could do anything that a sales didn't know about. You know, because that was always, it was our business to know what they were doing. And Tommy was selling out Lee Motor Company. Johnny sold his stock back to his family, so he was completely out after the liver transplant, and he was recovering and finally doing well. And we were in church together and had sat down at supper one Wednesday night. And Tommy had come in from a flight. We were sitting there with Lindy, his wife, Tommy's wife, and Johnny was still walking with a cane at that point. And we wound up sitting there and having dinner with Lindy and Tommy. And Tommy said, we're going to have to do something different. Things are changing, and I just don't know what's going to happen. And we said, what are you talking about? It happened with what? And he said, well, Pilots for Christ. And Johnny said, oh, y'all are doing fine. You got all that insurance money and stuff like that. And he's like, no, you don't. We don't get reimbursed from any of this. We fly strictly on donations. So we got to talking and going back and forth about Pilots for Christ, and that's when we realized that we can help. We can do this. We can help you. And so Tommy said, well, what you need to do is you need to go on a flight with me. So you see what we do firsthand. And it's nothing like seeing firsthand. It does, Tommy. So that was the November 22nd. I went on my first flight. It was Manassas, Virginia, to pick up a Methodist minister that was dying. We brought her home. And that's what was such a life-changing day for me, because I realized then that everything that I had planned in my life, everything that I thought was going to be the way it was going to be, was not what God had planned for us. And that was an amazing, humbling day, realizing, too, another time that I had to be reminded to put it all over into God's hands. Quit trying to take it out of it. Give it to Him and take it back. Give it to Him and take it back. Give it to Him. Leave it there.
Amen.
He's got you. And that's what we've done with Pilots for Christ. Tommy didn't realize what was going to happen. We didn't realize what was going to happen. At the end of 2013, Tommy selling out Lee Motor Company, and I understand what he meant when he said that things were changing and just didn't know what was going to happen. Lee Motor Company was pretty much footing the bill for Pilots for Christ for the last 20 years. He was using that to back up Pilots for Christ. He just wouldn't make the need known, saying this is what we need to do. And so when Johnny and I got involved, was right there in that November of 2013. They had done less than 60 flights that year, and they had averaged anywhere from 20 to 60 flights a year over the last 20 years. Funding had been very limited. Flights had been limited. Income had been $170,000 in 2013. Well, we got in, got to work, and this is not me now. This is not my meager talents. This is God working and doing. And this is, to me, is such a testimony to what it means to truly step out on faith. Truly just step out not knowing what's going to happen, but do it anyway. And we got to work, took over the Facebook page, took it from 400 people on it to now we have over 20,000 people following us. This Megan Kelly video has been viewed 92,000 times. That's God. That's not our meager talents. Johnny's not that good at doing videos. That's God. And we got to work, we stepped down on faith, we all sat down and we prayed over it, we talked about it, and we talked about the fact that if this is going to work, that we've got to step out on faith, that we have got to put this ministry in God's hands and trust Him to supply the need, and every need, great or small, has been met. Every one of them has been met. And we went from $170,000 in income in 2013 to $700,000 in 2014. That's God. That's God's people. That's God's people. And like I said, that's not us. That's not our meager talents. That is God blessing the effort and giving and having God's people supply the need. And those are the things that's why I love this church, and I think this is so awesome, because you've got a group of young people and leaders over here that they brought, and it's a fabulous thing. And they thought of it and came up with it and brought it to us, and it's just wonderful. The packets that are given to the patients and to the caregivers, and they fix children's packets that have coloring books and candy and activities in it, and then for the adults, it's got word puzzles and things like that. So every flight that we do with Pilots for Christ, those packages are on it. And Tompkins Baptist is with us every flight we make.
Amen.
So we've had the Red Hat ladies in Evergreen step up, and they've done throw blankets. We've got Oak Grove Baptist women on missions that have done pillows and made pillowcases and fresh pillows. Just everything. We put out a need for DVDs, for in-flight movies, and then so here comes the DVDs. Because a lot of people are nervous to fly, and especially in a smaller plane. And so watching a movie kind of takes their mind off of it at times, and there are some people that just don't want to talk, just want to, just leave me alone. And we do, if that's necessary. And then Monroe Academy and Sparta Academy's SGAs got together a couple of weeks ago, and they raised $1,000 and bought headless wireless headsets and a swivel top DVD player, just a really nice set up to watch the in-flight movies on. So I mean, just every little need, the comforts of the flight for the patients and the caregivers are considered and taken into consideration, as well as the love that has been shown to us through Pilots for Christ, through churches having us on their church budgets. Some of them are $100 a month, some of them are way more than that. But the thing is that the $10 donations all the way up to the $50,000 donations, all put together, makes it happen, helps it happen. If you were to put this thing on a business plan, it makes no sense whatsoever. How can you plan for this many flights or whatever? Because that's the other thing in the praise report, Brother Johnny, is that it was in 2014 with the $700,000, we did 176 flights. Wow. So, and we're on track this year to do 275, another 100 more than we did last year, just because God's people stepping up and supporting this ministry. And we do I write corporate grants and corporate funding proposals to go after the big money, the lots of zeros, and that type of thing. But we have fundraisers all the way from, like little Josie Gilchrist doing her lemonade stand. That was, $1,000, $1,200.
The other little girl from here with the birthday money.
Right. Lynn Alday's order that found $100 bill.
This church.
This church. I mean, birthday money, lemonade stands, and those are the things that remind us too to be good stewards. We know that we have to be good stewards of this money, of God's money. We make sure that when we first started in there was we were paying landing fees for every airport that we went into. And those could range from $180 to $300 just for the privilege to land the plane and then pay them $8 in jet fuel, the gallon for jet fuel. So what we did is we got on the phone and started negotiating prices, started negotiating landing fees, that kind of thing. I think the only one that charges us a landing fee now that we fly in and out of is Brookley Field, and they're not going to waive theirs. It's $180, it doesn't matter. And so we don't buy gas there. We'll show them. But we negotiated gas prices and took it from $8 a gallon down to $2.78, I think now. That's what we're paying for jet fuel. So it's just those kind of things, those little things that add up to a whole lot of things that matter in what we do when we realize that we've got to be good stewards of God's money. It's not our money, it's God's money. We very rarely, if ever, have to turn down anybody for a flight. If you know someone that needs our assistance, needs our help, there's brochures in the back that's got our website on it and our telephone numbers on it. The flight coordinator is my husband, Johnny, and I'm public relations. So those are the numbers that are on the back, as well as the hangar number where our office is located. And we'll walk you through filling out forms if you have someone that needs assistance and needs to fly. We have been blessed that we've never had an accident. The plane is always cranked, and the pilot is always well. And those are things in 20 years you just don't expect to happen. You know, because you walk out in your car, and there are times your car won't crank. This plane cranks every time, and we're working it to death. And that's the last thing I'm going to touch on. I'm going to hush. There is a campaign going right now. We're in the process of fundraising for a newer plane. We found that we are limping by the time we have to go to maintenance every 100 hours. Maintenance winds up costing around $20,000 every time we go. We went 5 times last year. We wound up spending $197,000 in maintenance costs last year alone because we were flying so much. The plane is worth about $300,000 that we're flying. So if you spend $200 on maintaining it, $300 for what it's worth, start seeing that it's time to make a change. Also, we're looking at a King Air 200, which would be a little bit larger than what we're flying right now. It only has to go to maintenance every 200 hours. It's faster, so the hours don't accumulate as much, and the maintenance cost is a third of what we're paying right now. They don't manufacture the Cheyenne anymore that we're flying, so parts are getting harder to come by, more expensive, and we have to fly all the way to Pennsylvania to have it maintained. Where if we had a King Air, they're making those every day, and we would go to maintenance in Meridian, Mississippi. So cost-wise, it would be so much better. I want to thank y'all so much. We need your donations. We need your help. We are a 501c3. We fly strictly by donations. But the most important thing that we need is your prayers. We're flying a lot. We're dealing with some very serious issues. So when you pray, lift up PFC and the people that are serving in Pilots for Christ, because of the things that we do deal with on a daily basis. And it is our honor and our privilege to serve. We thank God every day that we get a chance to get up and do this. Thank y'all so much.